The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Greetings, everyone. This is Sal Munoz. We will be getting started in about 2 to 3 minutes. I just want to give everyone else who had registered some time to hop on. So again, we'll be getting started shortly in about 2 to 3 minutes. All right, everyone. So let's get started with our day. My name's Sal Munoz. I am the System Implementation Manager here at All Chicago, and we are going to be talking about the housing system navigation workflow. Everyone here joining us is working at an agency that has the housing system navigation project, and we will be covering what is expected in terms of HMIS entry. So just a bit of housekeeping up top. In the handout section, you will find a PDF of the you'll find a PDF of the slides. So you can find that in the handout section of the GoToWebinar tool. And then in addition to that, we will not be taking anyone off of mute, but what we will be doing, if you have a question, please use the question functionality of GoToWebinar, and I will answer them at the end of each section. So again, I'll be answering your questions as we go along, after I cover whatever parts of the workflow are necessary. So with that having been said, feel free to shoot as many questions as you need to, and let's get started. So first off, we're going to talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about what we will be covering today. So what is housing system navigation? We're going to hop into a little bit of discussion in terms of what is expected of housing navigators and why it came about. Then we'll be talking. Then we'll be diving straight into HMIS. So this will be a HMIS heavy recording. And we will be talking almost exclusively about how to document all the necessary features of your project in HMIS. So we'll be talking a little bit about setting up a counts report, updating the referral need status, entering clients into your housing system navigation project, documenting the ROI when the client consent form is completed, when to use client notes for different outreach attempts and engagements, Then we'll talk a little bit about how to open a coordinated entry system entry, as well as updating that same entry. So let's go ahead and hop into to a little bit of context as to what housing system navigation is. So housing system navigation is designed to assist clients that have entered into coordinated entry and that have been matched to housing, but that have rejected those matches several times over. So you all have context as to what this means. In coordinated entry, a client has to talk to a skilled assessor in order to receive an assessment, and from that assessment, they are entered onto the one list. And if you remember, the one list is a ranking of clients by their vulnerability index. So depending on the client's vulnerability, they are then called up to be matched to housing. And sometimes what we realize is that clients end up rejecting housing over and over again. And oftentimes this has been with with clients that are particularly engaged with youth transitional housing, or clients that have severe mental health conditions. So why would clients reject matches? It could be because of their preference. Maybe they were matched to a permanent housing unit in a side of the city that they don't necessarily want to engage in. Perhaps they don't want to live in a SRO, which would be a single room occupancy, where they will have to share a bathroom or share a kitchen. Perhaps they don't want to live in a unit like that. And again, it could also just be a barrier of mental health condition. It could be that they don't have the wherewithal to be able to accurately sort of assess the needs of themselves and to be able to engage in housing. So the role of a housing system navigator is to assist your client so that they can. So let's talk a little bit about what the goal of housing system navigation is. So the goal of a housing system navigator is to help clients better understand the housing system and to help guide them to stable and safe housing by helping them explore their options. You're really going to be helping them assess what is out there, explain that where they may be matched to may be an SRO, and explain you'll be there to walk them through the housing options that they have and what the housing landscape is when it comes to the type of resources that they will be able to engage with. So for some of you, you may already have attended a full training that had happened last week. And as you can tell, there's a lot of stuff that I'm leaving out. And basically, this is the overall message. I mean, this is as base as it gets. And obviously, there is a lot more nuance to this. But for the most part, we are there to advocate for our clients and to be able to explain the system to them, explain how permanent housing in this field works, so that they may eventually find a kind of housing that they are comfortable with and that they fully understand they're engaging in. So let's move on. Now we are going to be hopping straight into HMIS. So before I do that, if anyone has any questions, again, please feel free to use the questions section of GoToWebinar, and I can go ahead and answer those as they come in. So in order to see the referrals that come into your system navigation project, we will need to be setting up a counterport. And for those of you that are familiar with counterport, you may understand that it is a really simple but really powerful tool for being able to tell which clients are currently entered into your projects, which clients had exited your projects for this quarter, the last quarter, for all time. it's a really great way of being able to quickly check numbers so that you don't necessarily have to run full reports over and over again. So not only will counts reports be helpful, well, first of all, they're necessary for you to be able to see incoming referrals, but in addition to that, it's a very helpful tool for you to be able to keep track of the comings and goings of your projects. So right up top, we are going to go ahead and we will be setting up a counts report. And I also just want to mention that there is a full help desk article on how to set up a counts report. We go through some of the reports that are preset that you can use for your projects. Really useful reports like clients with an entry but no exit, clients with incoming referrals, clients with recent exits, so that you're able to track sort of the flow out from your project. And then we can also show you how to designate the timeline. So we will be hopping into this once we get into the workflow in HMIS. And so I want to give you a general overview of the workflow for a housing system navigator. So first off, you are going to have a referral made to your project. So what oftentimes will happen is that a system navigator, the client will have been matched for the second or third time into a project, only for the client to either reject the permanent housing, or they just don't make themselves accessible, they cannot be contacted. And when that happens, the internal coordinated entry team will then assign this client to a system navigator. So at that point, we make a referral to one of your agencies out there so that you can begin work with this client. And so a referral will be made to your project, and you'll be able to see this referral through the counts report that we're going to be setting up later today. At that point, your agency is going to update the status of that referral. And essentially what you're going to say is that you've attempted contact with a client, or that you have already engaged with a client. So you are basically just going to have two states here. You're going to have a state of trying to contact them, and then a state of actually being able to engage with them and being in constant contact with them. So as soon as you receive your referral, you'll want to change the need status of that referral to be that you are attempting contact. And then once you are able to confirm that you're talking with a client, you'll want to indicate that you've engaged with them. And at that point, you're going to enroll your client into the housing system navigation project. And so once you enroll them into the housing system navigation project, that's when your client is officially starting to receive housing navigation services from you. And alongside this, because this is not necessarily part of the coordinated entry system, these navigation services are coming from your own agency, you will find that you will need to complete another client consent form in order to document the ROI for them. So just keep that in mind, that even though the client already has an ROI on deck from the skilled assessors project assessment, they still need to have a client consent form completed at your agency. And so what we ask is that you try to get that client consent completed before you enroll your client, so that you can simultaneously indicate that this client's ROIs, and so that you can also enroll the client at the same time. However, we are going to give you a bit of leeway, because we understand that attempting to contact the client may cause difficulty if you've only gotten in touch with them over the phone. They may have not filled out the client consent form again, or maybe they don't have time for you to be able to talk them through the client consent form in order to be able to complete the client consent over the phone. So we'll explore that a little bit as well, because there is a way that your client can complete the client consent form over the phone, and I'll show you where that is at in the client consent form and how you would document that. And shortly after that, we are going to be using client notes to document any contact attempts, any interactions we have with the client. So the client notes are really going to be there to help us keep track of when we have made contact with a client, when we've talked with a client, the types of services we've engaged with a client. And then we are going to hop in to see how we can update the skill assessor project entry. So that entry is into 1474 as needed through interim reviews. So what that means is that during your time engaging with this client, maybe their cell phone changes, maybe their contact information changes, maybe their housing situation changes. In those instances, you'll want to be able to update that client's skilled assessor project entry so that the coordinated entry system is getting the most up-to-date information about that client as we possibly can have. So let's move on. And we are going to hop into HMIS for the rest of today. So again, this is going to be a very HMIS heavy presentation. One thing that we are going to go over, we're going to go ahead and set up a counts report. Then we are going to look at the referral that was referred to us. We're going to change the need status. We're going to enter the client into our program and document the ROI. And then we will go ahead and update client notes, as well as changing our client's contact information. So the majority of our day will be spent in the Service Point training site. And just so you all know, I have shadowed Facing Forward to End Homelessness. So I am now officially a member of Facing Forward to End Homelessness. Again, this is all dummy data. None of the data on here is real client information. So this is the training site, a completely dummy data database. So let's go ahead and hop into our client. Well, I apologize. First, what we have to do is set up a counts report. So the counts report is not yet set up. Counts reports usually end up on the front screen. So this is your home page, and counts reports will show up right here. So what we have to do is click on this black arrow that's right next to Customize Homepage Dashboard. And just so you know, these icons, these little arrow icons, always expand and collapse certain things. So here, right next to Customize Homepage Dashboard, when I click on that drop-down arrow, I can see that I now have options for add counts reports, preview counts reports, add my fund requests, etc. And I can also collapse this sidebar. So that's just showing you a little bit about what those black arrows can do. But back to our original point, what we are going to do is add a counts report. So let's go ahead and click on Add Counts Report. And so as always, Service Point is not very good at telling you what just happened. There is hardly ever any feedback, and as you may have noticed, I mean, it's not even a blink of an eye. It just sort of happened. A counts report was added, but there was nothing really there to tell me that it went through, right? So now we have a counts report, and it's these 4 empty boxes. I wonder what they are for. So in each of these empty boxes, they are split up by quadrants. So it's the top right, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And what we can do is add reports right here by clicking on this pencil. And the report name, the most critical report name that we have to have, is going to be incoming referrals. So we are going to put this into the top left quadrant, and the report name we're going to be looking for incoming referrals. So click on incoming referrals, and we will set this to all dates. So again, we want to set this to all dates just so that we never miss a referral. After a while, we can set it to this week or whatever it may be, but we want to be in the process of looking at all dates, because it's easy to have a referral sort of swim right past you, and then you sort of lose it, and then this client is never engaged with. So we will have the report name as incoming referrals, the dates will be all dates, and the provider type, we are going to click on provider. And then for the provider, I'm going to click on Facing Forward to End Homelessness, Housing System Navigation. And you don't have to worry about choosing, including subordinates. That doesn't matter in this instance. The provider, you are always going to choose the actual project that clients are being referred to. So our client was referred to this project. So again, it's Facing Forward to End Homelessness, Housing System Navigation. We'll click OK. And there we go. It seems like we have one incoming referral. Now, I also want to show you how we can potentially create another counts report so that we can track the clients with an entry but no exit into our Housing System Navigation project. So let's go ahead and add another one. So I'm going to click the pencil icon right next to counts reports. And I will put this new report on the top right quadrant. And the report name this time around is going to be, let's see, clients with an entry but no exit. And again, I always like to select all dates. You may have a preferred date range. You may want to see the clients that were enrolled that week. But again, all dates is pulling from all the clients that have an open entry. So it will never be that hard to miss the clients that are in there. And all dates is also a really solid way of being able to tell, if you have a number that is way higher than the clientele that you are servicing, then that means that you will have to go in and look for the client that is actually no longer enrolled at your program. So this is a really good way of sort of doing some quality assurance. So I click on provider, and the provider I'm going to select will be for the Housing System Navigation. And I'm not going to be including subordinates, so I'll click OK. And right now, I don't have anyone enrolled into my program, which is fine. We actually have a referral coming in, so we will just go ahead and actually click on this blue one. So as you'll see, each of these numbers are hyperlinked, and if we had multiple clients enrolled into our projects, this number that would be greater than 0, if we were to click it, it would show us a listing of each HMIS ID of the clients that either have incoming referrals or that have an entry but no exit. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the clients with incoming referrals, which is just one. So let's go ahead and check it out. So here, the count details, we have several different columns. We have the client ID, call record ID, group ID, household ID, referral date, referral ranking. It's a lot of jargon for the most part, but you can see right over here that the most important information to know is the client ID, and you'll notice that the client's ID is hyperlinked. So when I click that, I will go straight to that client record, but I want to explore a little bit more over here. So here, the need type is going to be Housing Search Assistance. And Housing Search Assistance doesn't mean that you are helping them find apartments. It doesn't mean that you're going to be doing inspections. This is the best sort of service code that we could find to describe what Housing System Navigation really is like, because you are sort of helping them navigate the system, not necessarily helping them to find a particular unit, to find a particular type of housing, but rather you're sort of assisting them in navigating the permanent housing system. So that's the need type that all of your referrals will be, housing search assistance. As always, it is referred by the Chicago Coordinated Entry System. And depending on this, for those of you that work with vets, it may be through SSVF. I mean, you might be familiar with other agencies that have done referrals, but for these specific projects, the majority of them will be coming from the Chicago Coordinated Entry System Skilled Assessors project. And here you go again. I'm quote unquote working at Facing Forward to End Homelessness. So this client was referred to Facing Forward to End Homelessness. So let's go. I'm going to scroll all the way to the left, and the client ID, I will then click on that blue 65, which is my client's ID. And I am taken straight to my client's page. So from here, one thing that you are going to want to do is actually take a look at the client's contact information. So before we begin, we want to make sure that the client's contact information is in there to make sure that we can see this Skilled Assessors project entry. And one thing that I want to encourage everyone to do whenever we're dealing with entry and exits, go to the tab. So use the Entry Exits tab, because that will give you more context as to what is happening with your client's case. Here on the summary, it's just that. It's a summary. It's not including all the information in the Entry Exit tab. So I'll click on that Entry Exit tab. And as you can see, here's Summary, Client Profile, Household ROI, and then Entry Exit. So here I have my client who is in the Chicago Coordinated Entry System Skilled Assessors Project 1474. That's always the provider ID for that project. You'll want to ensure that the client has this, because this is where the client's contact information will be. So how do we get that client's contact information? Well, what we have to do from this Entry Exit page, we are going to click on the pencil that is to the left of project start date. So right here, this column, project start date, we're going to look to the left of it, and we find a pencil, the edit entry button. And let me make this a little bigger for y'all. And there we go. So we have Samantha Wilbur, and she is in the Coordinated Entry System. I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Continue. And notice there are no household members. That's because Samantha is a single female. And so for my clients, what I have found, so this is the Chicago Continuum of Care Standardized Housing Assessment, and this is the assessment that you will be able to find your client's contact information on. So you can ignore this portion, and one thing that might be very helpful will be to look at the assessor information. So if you have a relationship with this organization, or if you ever have trouble actually finding the client, you can go ahead and contact the assessor to see if they have any other follow-up information that they can provide you. So I was the assessor of this client, and let's move down. So here is my client's fake demographic information. And now this is my client's contact information. Here is their cell phone number, their email address, their mailing address, alternative contacts, and any notes on how to contact them. So what you want to ensure is that you are able to go into the Coordinated Entry Skilled Assessors Project, Project 1474, and that you see the client's contact information. If you come into this assessment and it's completely empty, if you don't see anything filled in, then you will want to shoot us an email at hmis@allchicago.org, and then we will likely have to open up the visibility for you. So just understand as we go forward. I mean, because it could be very easy to forget that, if you don't see anything here, you may wonder what you did wrong, what's happening. just shoot us an email. And likely what has to happen is that on our side, we have to make the answers visible to you. And that's only done to protect our client's privacy. It shouldn't be a problem for most people, since most people on this project are skilled assessors. But even if you're not a skilled assessor, you should be able to still see this info. So here we have our client's information, and you'll likely want to keep that on hand. And this is your first contact attempt. You'll go ahead and give a call to this number or shoot an email to this address and just sort of introduce yourself and what you're trying to do. So we scroll back up. I'm going to go ahead and X out of here. Because I didn't change anything, I want to make sure that I'm not saving anything, so I always tend to X out of here. Okay, so now we have my client's cell phone number, we have my client's email. We are going to attempt contact. So at this point, you would shoot an email, you'd give them a call, and now we have to tell the person that referred this client to us that, hey, we are getting in touch with this client. We just want to let you know that we've got it all under control. So because that is our way of getting feedback from you. We need feedback so that we know someone is actually working on this client. So what you'll do from the Entry Exit tab, you're going to go to Service Transactions. You will click View Entire Service History. And look at that. There's a referral right over here, referral to the provider of Facing Forward to End Homelessness. And what we are going to do, we are going to click the leftmost pencil. So we're going to click the pencil under the referral row. Okay, so I'm going to click this one, this blue, where it's highlighted blue. I'm going to click that pencil. And so we will scroll on down. Here we see that there's a need for housing search assistance, that the provider who created that need is the Skilled Assessors Project. And the referral data, this is when they were originally referred, so we know when they were referred. And what we have to do is update the need status. So at this point, the need status can be updated from identified to system navigation attempted contact. So there's a lot of information here. There's a ton of CES things. What you will want to look out for will be something that says system navigation. So anything that has system navigation in front of it, those are the options that you'll want to select. And so let's take a look at the two options that we have. We have system navigation attempted contact and system navigation in contact with client. So let's say that you shot an email and you called and the client has not yet answered or replied to your email. So we could just straight out say attempted contact. We're attempting contact right now. So let's go ahead and click Save and Exit for that. And now notice that the referral, the need status for that is system navigation attempted contact. So let's then assume that our client has now officially gotten back to us. They've shot us an email. They have confirmed a date in which we can do a case management session where we can sit down with them. Let's go ahead and re-edit this need status to say that we are engaged with them. So what we'll do is click on this pencil, scroll all the way down, then need status right here. We'll click the drop down, and we are going to say in contact with client. So there we are. Now we are officially in contact with client. I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Exit. Let's go to client information. And there we go. So now our client, now we have officially responded to this referral. We are now in contact with the client. And so at that point, when you're in contact with the client, what you'll want to do is enter them into your project. And so you are going to be entering them into the Skilled Assessors project, or I'm sorry, not the Skilled Assessors, the Housing System Navigation project. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'll do is go ahead and click Add Entry/Exit. And again, this is for the household of Samantha Wilbur. The provider, anyone who is doing this data entry should already see facing forward to end homelessness housing system, or they should see some type of housing system navigation project. So again, whether it be La Casa Norte or whether it be any one of the agencies that are working on this project, you should see something that says housing system navigation. And the type will be HUD, and it's HUD across the board. Even if you work with underage youth, even if you work with veterans, this project will be HUD. So let's go ahead and click HUD. And as always, you can always backdate this project start date if necessary. And let's go ahead and continue. And there we go. So now we have officially enrolled our clients. So let's scroll down, and typically what we would need to do is fill this out completely. Now, notice that some of these are already answered, and that's because this information is being inherited by the Chicago Skilled Assessors project. So this is already being inherited by the Chicago Skilled Assessors project because on that assessment, we had already indicated that this client is non-Hispanic, non-Latino, that they're female, etc. But other things like the monthly income, non-cash benefits, health insurance, those are not filled in. You will want to fill this in as much as you possibly can. So I am not going to do that for right now, just for the sake of time. But let's go ahead and scroll down. And this would be a typical intake that you would do for any regular project you have. So if you have a universal intake form that has all this information, you can go ahead and use that and then input that information into here. So I'm going to go scroll down. And again, I know that I need to turn these HUD verifications into green check marks like I did for disabilities. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go through an entire assessment. So let's go ahead and click Save and Exit. And now our client is officially enrolled into our program. Okay, so they're enrolled into our program. And one thing you want to keep in mind is that even though you also need a separate client consent for this project. As with anything in Service Point, we always need to have the client consent per agency. And so if there's not already a client consent for this client at your agency, maybe you were the person that skilled assessed them, and you also have the housing system navigation where you could sort of move the client over to that, then by all means you can use the same client consent that they have at your drop-in center or whatever it may be. But for those of you that are receiving a fresh referral for a client that you've never engaged with that is coming only from the Skilled Assessors project, you will need to have a client consent for this client. And so let's pretend to add an ROI, and I'm going to say that my client has decided that they are going to share the entire information, so they'll choose option C, and that for the supplemental, they do not experience any of the conditions listed. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the ROI, and I will click Add Release of Information. The provider is going to be Housing System Navigation. Or actually, I'm sorry, the provider can be the agency or the specific projects if you need. And release granted is always yes, unless a client chooses option C. So option C is do not agree to share. So our client is choosing option A. So we'll say yes, they have agreed. The start date, we can backdate that to whenever the client actually signed the consent form. And then the end date would be 3 years from the start date. So even though the consent form is in perpetuity, there is not there's not an expiration date to the consent form. We still need an end date for this system. So the end date here is just going to be the start date plus 3 years, and that'll be July 31st, 2021. The documentation is going to be A, and the witness, I'll say that it was me. We'll click Save Release of Information, and then I'm going to quickly add the supplemental. And the supplemental will always, the release granted for the supplemental will always be yes, unless the client indicated that they do not wish to share. So anytime the client literally says, I do not agree to share, I do not wish to share, then release granted would be no. So end date, again, we're going to say 2021. The documentation will say that the client does not experience conditions listed. And the witness will be me. So the typical workflow for almost every single agency is that you have to have an ROI concurrent with the entry, right? You have to document the ROI almost right before you even enter them. So that's sort of the process that you work with clients, right? You're going to have them sign the client consent form, then you're going to document that in HMIS, and then you enter them into the projects. So let's say that you have engaged with a client, but only over phone, right? You've only ever talked with them over the phone, and they are engaging with you, but they haven't come yet to a meeting with you to go through a case management session, anything of that sort. So what you can do, and I'm going to go to the HMIS website really quick. It is allowed for you to be able to explain the conditions to clients over the phone. So let's go ahead and take a look at where that's possible. So this is the client consent form, if you weren't already sure, and we have had a relatively recent update to the client consent form as of June 1st, 2018. So if we scroll down, you'll see that now the options are A, B, and C, as opposed to A, B, C, and D, like it was before. But more importantly, if your client is not able to come in to sign this, if you go to the bottom of page 3, you'll see that the client above has received a telephonic explanation of this form as needed, and that someone at the staff was the representative. And so we just need to make sure that you read the entire form to the client over the phone. So if this is the best option you can possibly have for your clients, then you'll want to go through this. You'll want to explain everything in regards to their client consent rights over the phone, have them select their choice, and then indicate here, document it here that you explain this to the client. This little blank area would be the agency witness initials, essentially. So that is a simple way in which you could get the client consent without actually having to engage with the client in a case management session in person. So let's go back to the HMIS record. So let's go over what we've done so far. So for the referrals, we have updated the need status for the referrals to indicate that we are in contact with the client. We have entered them into our project, and we have completed the full project assessment, the HUD entry. We've indicated their ROIs. And so one thing that is required, well, first off, I want to make some time for questions, folks. Does anyone have any questions in regards to what we're doing so far? Feel free to have them come in, okay? So again, please use the questions functionality, and I will address them live. So we have the ROIs, and one thing that will be happening is that throughout your engagement with a client, you will want to write a client note every time something happens with the client, every time you make an attempt to contact them, every time they shoot you a call, shoot you a text, shoot you an email, you're going to write a quick client note. And so some of y'all may be familiar with client notes through case plans, but there's a quicker way for client notes to work. So we can go to client profile. And again, client profile is right next to summary. So client profile is the second tab to the right next to summary. So what we are going to do from the client profile tab, we'll scroll down, and you want to indicate client notes whenever you do some type of outreach to the client, whenever you talk with a client, etc. Now, I wouldn't recommend keeping super sensitive information in this section. So what I would recommend under client notes would be outreach attempts, any services that you have provided, if you've paid for transit cards, if you have worked with a client and bought them a bus pass or given them a ride anywhere, you would indicate that through a note right here. Okay, so it's a super simple way of doing it, and it could be as simple as emailed the client. Oh, mind my misspelling. So just little minutia like that. You're going to be adding that every single time you make some type of engagement with a client, even if it's just to say, so there's an example of a failed outreach attempt, and that's totally fine. We just want you to be able to keep track of how you're engaging with your clients. So again, you will be indicating client notes anytime there's contact, anytime there's a service that you provide to your clients. Let's say, for example, so something like that. I mean, talk to client, they needed a bus pass and a 3-day CTA pass was provided to them. So something of that sort. I mean, that's what you're going to be documenting as you work with your client. And so basically, this will be happening concurrently as you are working with your client in system navigation. You will be going to client profile and adding client notes throughout your entire time talking with them. And finally, the one thing that I think we'll want to touch base on is how to update this skilled assessors project. So the information for your client might change, right? So there is a lot of time lapsed between when they were enrolled into the Chicago Coordinated Entry Skilled Assessors Project versus when you are actually talking with them. So what might have happened is that their number is no longer valid, that they have switched their email, whatever it may be, or that one of their contacts is no longer the best person to contact them, or maybe they don't actually fit the chronicity status. So maybe they're not chronically homeless, and you need to indicate that information before they are matched to a permanent housing provider that requires chronic homelessness. So these are all things that you'll be finding out as you work with your client. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you how you will update the Skilled Assessor project, or rather 1474. So you're not going to select the pencil that's right next to project start date, because that's the client's entry. And we tend to leave the entry completely alone. Once we save an entry, the only reason we ever go back into that entry is to either review information to see the type of information that was input there, or to fix information, to fix erroneous information. And I don't mean that if your client's number was 77773 7.333 initially, that's right. So we are going to keep that number the same. But let's say it changed over time. Let's say they chose another carrier. What we'll have to do is create an interim. Now, we don't alter anything. We don't put in updated information into the entry because the entry is sort of a capsule of the past. It's where our client was when they were entering that project, and we want to keep that as pristine as possible. So in this instance, what I'm going to do, we are going to click on this interims icon. So right here on the right-hand side, there's an interims column. I'm going to click on this little notepad icon. And let's say that I'm going to add an interim review for our client, and the interim review type, when you click the drop down, if you are going to be updating maybe their let's say the client's housing status has changed since the last time they had talked to a skilled assessor, then that would just be update. You'll be selecting update for that. But if you have new contact information, right down here, you'll see that there's an option for CES new contact information. We'll go ahead and click on CES new contact information to be able to show, to update our client's phone number. So let's click on that. And then the review date, again, it can be backdated if you need it, but I will leave it be. So I'll click on save and continue. And I'm going to be scrolling down to the contact information portion. And let's say that this client's number is no longer 777-777-7333. Let's say that it's 888-999-7333. So now we have officially updated our client's number because, again, that will happen a lot. That's something that's going to happen pretty continuously with our clients. So we will scroll down, and this time we are going to select Save and Exit. And there we go. So now we would have officially updated our client's contact information. And at this point, really what would happen, you are to exit the client only when that client is officially housed. So it also depends on the type of program. Maybe the client moves out of Chicago, something causes them to lose contact with you. There is more guidance that we will be able to put in as this pilot evolves. But really, I think that the sort of set parameters are that a week after the client being matched and actually moving into housing will be when we want to check in with the client and then exit them entirely. So this is relatively it, folks. At this point, we would be working with our client pretty tirelessly to explain to them what the housing situation is and helping to explain to them the type of housing that they are eligible for. So I want to make some time available to you all to ask me any potential questions. So feel free to shoot me some questions if you can. And again, use the questions functionality and go to webinar. But right up here, I have a few resources, and these links are available in the handout that I had attached. And you'll find that handout in the handout section in the GoToWebinar navigation bar. There you'll see the Housing System Navigation Workflow article. You'll also see a full help desk article on setting up counts reports. You'll also find my email and, more importantly, the HMIS help desk. Since the HMIS help desk is really the place where you'll be sending in any visibility issues. If you're not able to see a client's entry into coordinated entry, you'll want to email the HMIS help desk, and one of our team will be able to assist you with that. So with that having been said, folks, thank you so much for joining me. I will be on for the next couple of minutes in case any questions come in, but that is effectively the end of our webinar today. So just feel free to shoot me any questions. I'll be here on call. I'll be logging off in about 2 to 3 minutes if no one sends in anything. Hi. So I have received a message from Jasmine, and so Jasmine is asking, other than explaining housing options, what are the additional duties of a navigator? And Jasmine, so the additional duties would include, helping take your clients to any particular meetings, helping them engage with housing providers, sort of helping them particularly with documentation. That's a pretty big one. So those are some of the duties that you'll have to be responsible for when working with clients as a housing navigator. So folks, I believe this is it for our time together. This has been recorded, and we will be putting this up on the help desk. You'll find this recording under the help desk, under the housing system navigation article on the help desk that is linked in the handouts. Thank you all very much.